Hey, it's Maryanne, the influential nonprofit. I'm going to start with a story, as typical. A few years ago, my husband and I went on a vacation. This was a while back. My kids were little, and getting away was a big deal. And we were going to Negril. We've never been to Negril. We always wanted to go, and I found this great resort, and we were super excited. We got there, and of course it's Jamaica. Our room wasn't ready. That's kind of typical. No big deal. But they said, go get something to eat and we'll let you know in your room. I'll check back in a little bit. So we go to the swim up bar, but we sit on the dry side of the swim up bar. We are obviously fresh off the plane. Okay. Because when you get on vacation, you have the vacation look, right? The swimsuit, the cover up, the beach hat, no makeup, you've got the vibe happening. We did not have the vibe yet. We were in travel clothes and things like that. So we sit on the dry side of the swim up bar, we order some food, and we start talking to some people who are in the pool. And they offer us a welcome shot, which is a Bob Marley shot, which it's a lot. It's like hot damn cream to mint and something else, Goldschlager, whatever it is. Okay. So they whip these things out. And I was like, and I pick it up and I go to smell it. And somebody else, don't smell it. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? What is happening? But I knew in that moment, I don't care if this thing sets my esophagus on fire. I will not flinch. I will do the shot. I will do the shot. I don't do shots. Don't like them, but I'm going to do this because I want swim up bar cred. Okay. I know how to establish credibility. This is what's going to happen. I throw back the shot. I was like, okay. I also uh wave down the bartender and be like, we're just gonna do Diet Coke for about an hour. And he was like, no problem. Anyway, after that whole thing, now within the next 2 hours, I made the best friends of my whole life in the swim up bar of Swept Away. It's a resort called Couple Swept Away. Totally recommend, by the way, if you want to ask me more questions about that. Anywho, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold today, but I really want to get this podcast out. So we wind up making the best friends ever. A couple hours goes by. We, of course, our bags are in our room. We run up, we change our clothes, we come back down, spend the rest of the afternoon at the swim up bar with these people, have the best time, best friends ever, right? So then, of course, it starts to get dusk, and then people go in and they change for dinner and for evening activities. We did the same. We went upstairs, got changed, and go to dinner. And now it's like 9:30. Now I am a night owl. Okay. If there's one thing about me, I rise ascendant at 10 p.m. Like that is just me. I could be so tired about 8:30, 10 o'clock. I am wide awake. But anyway, I am tired. We had been up since very, very early in the morning, a full day of travel, swimming, sun, fun, all of that. So we're making our way back to our room and we pass a security guard and he says, oh, are you going into the club? And I was like, what is he talking about? Well, it turns out on the same floor as our room in this big building they call the Great Hall was this club. Now, you could have walked by these doors. You wouldn't have heard a peep. You would not know what's behind these magical doors because we were 4 doors down the hall, could not hear a peep that was going on. But you open the double doors into this vestibule, another set of double doors, and it's a piano bar with a microphone. I was like, what? And then at 11 o'clock on the other side of that, there's dancing. And I went on the same floor as my room. I could roll home if I had to. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. I had no idea. I had so much fun. And of course now, and if I'm up and I'm gonna be up, like if you've ever not slept for a long time, it's really hard to sleep sometimes. We were up. It was great. We wound up having the best trip. The whole week was magical. So much fun, exactly what we needed. Our only thing is we wish we would have had one more night. But isn't it great to leave a situation wanting a little more? So, of course, a couple years later, we go back And I am fired up for this trip because I had such a good time last time. And what I didn't realize then that I know now, because I've evolved and I've done a lot of work, and I am much more conscious of my thoughts and feelings and how they affect me. I was The first day we were there, I was disappointed. Why was I disappointed? Because when we got there, it wasn't like the first time we got there when we made all these friends immediately. Like they didn't have the piano bar that night, or the karaoke wasn't like I wanted to have. I realized my expectation was to have the same vacation twice. And of course, that's not going to happen. That's not realistic. And I was so afraid that I wasn't going to have fun because, which it seems so odd to think about this now, but is why wouldn't you have fun? It's vacation. But I really was disappointed because I had set up my expectations so specifically to do specific things and have it happen at a specific time. And when that didn't work out, I was disappointed. Just disappointed. So the moral of this story is the more expectation you have, the more opportunity you have for disappointment, frustration, and resentment. And the key to successful life experiences is releasing the outcome, meaning the less expectation I have, the more likely I'm going to have a fulfilling time. Now, I want to make one thing clear. It's okay to have standards. Standards are different than expectations. Standards are, I know that I'm going to go on vacation. I want to have a resort that's beautiful and good food and kind staff and all of those things. Those are standards. The standards are the what. Here's what I want. But the releasing the outcome is about the how. I know I'm going to have fun. I don't have to worry about how, like I knew they had a talent show the last time I was there that I participated in. And I was literally practicing a song for a week before we went on vacation to do at the talent show, which they didn't have that week that I went there the second time. Like kind of stuff like that. I wanted everything the same. And so when we hold on to an outcome, we hold on to what we want to have happen. We're way less likely to get it because there's so many more opportunities for disappointing. Now, I'm releasing the outcome is one of the fundamental philosophies of the influential leadership training that I do. And it is so important in your leadership and in your fundraising, in your relationship building, to release the outcome, not just on vacation or not just for your favorite sports team or for whatever experience of your life. Releasing the outcome is a fundamental way to actually create more of what you want. Here's the mic drop moment that I'm going to give you. The more attached you are to something, the less likely you are to get it, which sounds really strange, but it's absolutely true. The less tied you are to a specific outcome, the more likely you are to achieve that outcome. Now, we can hold space for two things to be true at the same time. One is I have goals, I have ideas, I have things that I'd love to have happen. And I'm okay with whatever's going to happen. Now let's talk about how this clogs up our fundraising and makes it kind of uncomfortable sometimes or not as successful as it could be. And the first way is being bound to a plan, because we want to control for the outcome. We want to Rubik's Cube everything to minimize risk. We want to think everything through. So there's no way that this can go wrong. But that is a fallacy. That is a fallacy. And the reason that's a fallacy is because whether you have a plan or not, yes, it's good to have a guide. Yes, you have a plan. I have a plan. I have a year plan. I have a 90-day plan. Every 90 days I have a plan. That is 100%, okay? And also, I'm not bound to that plan. Because when I'm bound to that plan, I may be missing opportunities that are in front of me. It's like, I want to raise this much money, which is great. And I'm going to figure out how. And also, it may come to me in a completely different way. And I may not value that way because it wasn't part of the intended how. So let's say you want to do, like, I want to get monthly donors, and you wind up not getting monthly donors, you're getting major gifts. Okay, that didn't quite go to plan, or something took a lot longer, which is very typical, than you thought it would. Now I'm disappointed because I had this time frame in my head, and now it's not to that time frame. Now I'm disappointed. Things are going to happen when they're going to happen. And that, I know, to you, if you're listening and you like, that feels really chaotic and really reckless, it's not. It's realistic. No, what do they say? No plan ever survived no battle plan ever, or no battle plan ever survived contact with the enemy, right? And no marketing plan or fundraising plan ever survived the donors, because people are still going to do what they want to do. Okay to have a plan. I love having a plan. Let's have a plan, but we're not bound to that plan. It's a guide, right? It is only a guide, and we are not subservient to the plan. What happens is, when we create a plan, then when new opportunities come up, they're not part of, they're not part of the plan. Or we get less experimental because we're bound by this plan. So there's a balance of having a guide, having a direction, and also not being bound to it, because the more that we want something, the less likely we are to get it, because we're attached to the outcome. So I want to talk about how this shows up in 6 other ways. First is planning, right? I did number 1. Number 2 is donor engagement. When we release the outcome, we focus more on the real work of relationship building and not the short-term transactional of getting money. I know it's important to get money. And yet, when we talk about, we don't want to feel like ATMs or make people feel like ATMs, but in that short term, that transaction of donor engagement, we are creating an experience that may feel like an ATM. We are focusing on the money and not the relationship. Releasing the outcome means I can focus on who you truly are, not who I want you to be. And a lot of times when we're in meetings, or we're in a conversation back and forth between in person or email or however, we're only reading the things that fulfill our agenda, or we're seeing things that meet our needs. We have a lens, a filter, because the filter is, I need this person to do this. That's why sometimes you'll have a meeting and you'll be so excited, and then it actually goes nowhere. And it's because you were just picking up on the only clues that you wanted to hear, because you were attached to the outcome. So releasing the outcome allows me to see the person for who they are, not who I want them to be, which is the source of most of our pain. Is that we want people to be something that they're not, right? So we love people for who they are, not who we want them to be. And in this, now we can see people fully for who they are, and we can respond to that in a way that validates them, instead of trying to convince them or get them to do something that they didn't really want to do in the first place, but don't know how to say it, because they're attached to the outcome too. They don't want you to get disappointed. They don't want you to feel bad. It's all nicety and people being kind, but it's actually a lot of miscommunication that keeps you following up with people who are never going to do it anyway. They just didn't know how to say no. Okay, number 3, you can ask with confidence. When you're not attached to the outcome, you can just ask with confidence, because whether they say yes or no is totally up to them. I say this all the time: whatever you decide is totally okay. The more decision-making power I give to someone, the more likely they are to decide what I want. So releasing the outcome allows me to give people the full decision-making power, their full sovereignty. You can do whatever. The minute we try to convince, persuade, push, right? Um, we got to get somebody to do something, is the minute they push back and they get defensive. Their subconscious lights up, they go into fight or flight mode, and they start to push back. So by releasing the outcome, I can ask with confidence, because I know that the more decision-making power I give to you, you give, that you will more likely do what I want. Now, the fourth thing is long-term vision. Releasing the outcome allows us to focus not on the short-term wins, but on the long-term vision that we have in relationship with this donor or board member or prospect or community partner, whoever. Fundraising is the long game, okay? Doing it right is the long game. When you let go of obsessing over short-term results, you open yourself up to building sustainable donor relationships that will lead you to greater success in the future. Sure, you could have a short-term win, but really, that's going to be short, and you're having a bunch of short-term wins. When we release the outcome, we're building sustainable relationships that will pay off for years down the road. So you can decide, right? Because again, the sovereignty is with you. You get to decide what's important. I've told this story before. I did a workshop and the woman said, Maryanne, I get this, release the outcome, respect people's no's, all that stuff. But my superiors don't really agree. And we had a donor who said, hey, I can't do it this year. And the fund development person said, no problem. That's no, we're happy to be partners with you. Let's talk again next year. And the boss said, well, you couldn't get something from them. Now, she could have gotten something from them, but do you think how would they have felt coming back the next year? Right. So this is releasing the outcome allows you to focus on the long-term sustainable relationships. It feels a little scary. I get it. Releasing the outcome can feel like a scary thing, but it's actually the way that you're going to get more of what you want. The more you remember, like my vacation, the more you control, the more opportunity you have for disappointment and for missed opportunity. So let's keep going. Number 5, decision making. You often face tough decisions as a fund development manager, fundraiser, executive, CEO, and being fixated. If you are overly fixated on getting a certain results, this can cloud your judgment. And releasing the outcome allows you to evaluate options more objectively and make decisions based on the best available information, not just the desired results. I see this time and time again. People want a specific result, but they're not looking at the information around them. My husband struggles with this. He's the CEO of a biotech startup. He's facing the same thing where they want a desired result, but they're not looking at the data. They're not looking at the whole picture. So by releasing the outcome and saying, in his mind, we follow the data, and wherever the data takes us, that's where we go. But in other people's minds, like they want to drive the data to drive a certain result. And that is out of alignment for him. And in the same way, it's out of alignment for you because you want people to drive a certain result. You want your donors or, to create this certain result. When we're focusing on the result, we're focusing on what money people have instead of who they are and what's important to them. And we often will dismiss the information around us because we're so focused on a specific result. So releasing the outcome allows us to, without judgment, right, objectively look at what's happening, take in all the information. A little aside, a little exercise you could try if you want, because this is really fun. If you have team meetings or staff meetings or whatever, you can do this too, because it's super quick. Just pick up something around you. Pick up anything around you. I'm gonna pick up this. This is a little thing that I made. It's if you're listening, I'm picking up this picture. It says I am the queen. It's a purple little wooden kind of like shadow box thing that I painted. I am the queen on this with a crown and some sparkles. Okay. Now you pick up whatever, a coffee cup, a pencil or whatever. Pick it up, and for 30 seconds, I want you to judge the crap out of whatever that is. I mean, judge it. Good, and judgment doesn't mean always negative. It's good or bad. Like So I'm going to use a Sharpie because everybody knows what that looks like, because you don't know what this thing looks like, but I'm going to like, everybody knows what a Sharpie looks like. Okay. So I'm going to judge the crap out of this Sharpie. It's cheap, these tips, the tips of these, they dull really quickly and I don't like them. If I forget to put the cap on, it dries out. Um, let's see, how else could I judge this Sharpie? I always like the way it writes, it bleeds through. Okay. And I'm just gonna judge the crap out of this thing. Now, when I've done that 30 seconds of looking at this object and judging it, take a breath, and then I want you to look at this object again and look at it from objectively. So just notice it, just perceive it. Okay. I want you to look at, and just only from the senses in the moment. I have a purple top. I can feel that there's Sharpie outlined right here. I can touch it with my finger. I can feel it on the cap. It has it on two sides. I can feel the ridge here, right? I can see that the Sharpie permanent marker. I can feel the head, the, was it just shirt hook on here, um, the color is the same, almost the same color as my fingernails. Shocking. I can look at the color purple. I can study the gray, right? I can feel the smoothness of the barrel of the pen. I can see the tip of the point. I am going to look, and it's just information. There's only information. That's all I'm gathering. And then you take that back and you step back and you see what you notice so much more about an object, a pen, a piece of fruit, a coffee mug, whatever you picked up, with observation rather than judgment. Because in a way, because you're not attached to the outcome, I'm just gathering information. And judgment, right? When we work in judgment, we often, it clouds our thinking. And thinking about when you're judging somebody or when you're judging a situation, try to pull back and switch to observation, because that neutrality, that releasing of the outcome, helps you see things that and have a greater level of understanding than you would if you were sitting in judgment. It helps you see the nuances in people, understand people's motivations. It just helps you notice so much more. Okay. Now, after decision making, okay, we did planning, releasing the outcome and planning. We did donor engagement, releasing the outcome and donor engagement. Releasing the outcome and asking with confidence. Releasing the outcome and long-term vision. Releasing the outcome and decision making. And we have two more. And the next one is innovation. Managing a nonprofit, managing anything, is taking risk. Risk taking is a natural part of life. It is an unavoidable part of life. Yet we really work hard to minimize risk. And also, what we're doing is upsetting a status quo. We're shifting systems. We're changing communities. That takes a risk, right? So when I'm not overly attached to an outcome, I'm more willing to try new ideas and initiatives, even if there's uncertainty, even if I'm not sure of the outcome. This can lead to breakthroughs, new opportunities, and that wouldn't arise if we were cautious. Now, there's a couple things I want to say about this. The first is we often train our donors to have very specific expectations. We are training them to not release the outcome, right? We're saying, if you give us money, we're going to do this, right? And we're going to make this specific thing happen. And now you feel so much pressure to make that thing happen. If you're enrolling people in a vision of what you want to create, how you create it is really not that important to most donors. It only becomes important because we make it important to them. I don't like, I love the Foster Adoptive Care Coalition. Not really that concerned with how they do things. I'm concerned with what they do and the difference they make. That trust factor allows for the how to go away. So when I'm overly attached to outcomes and I'm communicating that over attachment to outcomes, then now my donors, my supporters, my community is invested in those outcomes as well and expecting to see them. When I'm talking about the possibility, the breakthroughs, the challenges, the vision, they're going to be bought into that. So it's not just us that this is about. It's about how we talk about our organization and how we bring people along and help them become partners in innovation and partners in change. And we can create the breakthroughs, the new opportunities, the new levels that we would have never thought possible had we not released the outcome. I did a training last week with the group, and one of the leaders of the group, the leader of the group, is very into, they want everything planned out. They want everything thought through, which is wonderful. And I'm going to hold space for that value because that is an amazing skill and really helps guide and lead a very big, busy team. And also, what they're struggling with is innovation and putting in new ideas, because I can't always think through a new idea, or should I? So I was saying what you might want to do is try something. And we were talking about engaging a group of donors that kind of like gave every year at the same level. They really weren't doing a lot to sort of bring them in closer to the organization. So we were suggesting some ways that, if you follow me, awareness, interest, connection, action, to generate some connection with this group. And it's like, well, I don't know if we could do that because we don't have it thought all the way through. And I'm not sure we're going to be able to get permission to do that. So we can hold space for both things to be true. I look at it like a TV show or a script, a movie, where you follow a script, but you can also improvise. Some directors really follow a script. Some directors really like to improvise. Some have a combination. There's no really right way or wrong way, but we just want to be sure we are not squelching innovation, that improv, that moving in the moment for a plan, that we're not trying new things because they're not all the way thought out. We can just try new things to try new things. I want to give you an example of this. Like, there's a show I'm watching right now. It's called Bad Monkey. It's on Apple TV. It stars Vince Vaughn. Now, if you know anything about Vince Vaughn, is that he is very good off the cuff. He just has this stream of consciousness joke stuff that he does really well. And you can see how, knowing this about him, the show created space for him to really kind of riff and explore. And it's a very funny show. It's quite entertaining. I would recommend it. It's based off a novel that I have not read, but I'm enjoying the show. But I can see how they're making space for him to do this. Okay. So if you have somebody on your team who's really, really good in the moment, like that's how I operate. I can read a room, but then I can't react because I'm bound to this plan, or I can't try something new because it wasn't part of the plan. That's really going to thwart me. Okay, that or Vince or whoever. And so it's a balance. Like, and also I can't just like, oh, I'm just going to go off and do whatever, because we do have shared goals and a shared directive. So I can hold space for, yes, we have shared goals and a shared directive, but also I can move in the moment. And it's the same with you. When we release the outcome, I can try new ideas. I can try new things. I can innovate, and I can take risks. Because most of us won't take risk because we're afraid we're going to fail. So for making decisions in fear, we create more fear. If we're making decisions based on opportunity and possibility, we create more opportunity and possibility. There is no way we can avoid risk. And in fact, I'm gonna hold back on this a little bit, but man, maybe this is another podcast, but our risk averse nature is really thwarting our ability as a nonprofit to create long-term sustainable change. I'm going to say enough about that. The last one is managing teams. Whether you're a fund director, an executive director, president of the board, whoever, a program director, as a leader, you set expectations, right? We have standards. Expectations are standards. And you guide a team, but you can't always control how they perform or how external factors might impact progress. Releasing the outcome helps reduce stress when things don't go exactly as planned and encourages a healthier, more adaptive approach to management. You're getting yourself all worked up about stuff you can't control. That's the bottom line. Most of the time, it's already okay. I think it's a Tony Robbins line, things happen for you, not to you. So this is all for you, for your benefit, for your learning, for your growth. And and so as a leader, I set expectations and I guide, but I can't control what choices people make or what external factors go into our progress that that might impact our progress. That's why a plan helps us set expectations and standards, but it's not always so bound to the how, because the how can be a trap. If we're bound to the how, we could miss opportunity. We could miss possibility because, oh, we weren't looking for that, or we didn't value that because it didn't come to us in the exact way that we wanted. I go through this same thing. I will get a win in one place, but that win wasn't part of my plan. I'm like, oh well, but I still have this weight. That was a win. You know, I I got, and I'm going to talk more about this in the next couple weeks, a very, very big project with a major, major foundation that came to me out of not nowhere, because nothing comes out of nowhere, but it wasn't on my plan to let's find a big contract with a major foundation. Through the work that I was doing to reach the people who were that and the plan, I connected with someone who I'm going to have a huge partnership with. Do you see what I'm saying? So releasing the outcome reduces the stress when things don't go exactly as planned. Again, the more expectations I have, the more likely I am for disappointment. And if you have not practiced releasing the outcome, let me just tell you, it can feel a little weird in the beginning. It might, I don't know, it may be. I don't want to tell you what's going to happen to you, but I can tell you from my experience that there are going to be people who are going to hear this and said, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. This is what I've been trying to do. And there are people who be like, this scares the crap out of me because I want a high level of control. I want to have everything sorted out. Both are fine and both are true. And where you're at is where you're at. What I would like you to consider is the very fundamental phrase that I started this with, which is the more you want something, the less likely you are to get it. So what is the thing you want? Okay. And this is the when I work with folks on having donor conversations, we ask 3 questions. What do I want? Um, what is the next best step to getting this? And am I okay with any outcome? So being okay with any outcome means, yes, I would love to have this and I'm okay. It's not going to be okay. It is okay. Everything is unfolding exactly the way it should, so that I can hold space for there's something that I want and I desire, yet I'm okay. Because I know the less I am attached to it, the more likely I will get it. And I tell myself that, right? Again, this partnership that I'm entering into, I was very guarded about this. I had no attachment to this outcome. If this was going to work, great. If not, that's okay too, because I want to make a good decision. And that's the same with you. If it works, great. If not, that's okay too, because it allows us then to gather the information without judgment of we did it wrong or we messed up or we're a failure, to say that's useful information. Now we know what to do in the future. I'm telling you, releasing the outcome is one of the most powerful philosophies that you can adopt. And it will change your life, in not just through your fundraising or nonprofit work, in all aspects of your life. So play with that, think about it, try it out. As always, you can email me, Maryanne at courageouscommunication.com, and feel free to connect with me. I have a link in the bio, in the show notes, for you to connect with me. I love having these conversations. If you're looking to get some coaching and training for you, for your team, or for your board, I am here for you. This is what I train people to do, is how to be more effective, how to create the mindset necessary to be as effective as possible, especially around the real work of relationship building, and especially as that relates to fundraising. And that's it for me and this episode of The Influential Nonprofit. We'll see you next time.